You're about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So I live in Southern Nevada, and I'm even though I was born in LA and I grew up in Phoenix. I mean, I consider myself, Vegas born, Vegas strong. I've been in Las Vegas ever since I was a child. Even though my parents gambled and we moved a lot, I was still pretty much, in grade school for multiple of the 12 years of the 12 different schools I went to. A good majority of them were in Vegas. Went to UNLV for undergrad, went to UNR for medical school. And so when the October 1 shooting happened, I mean, we were in mourning for a long time, and we still, every time I drive by the Mandalay Bay, every time I drive where that Harvest 91 festival was, you just can't stop and pray and feel the souls that were lost. And so October 1 marks the history of one of the largest mass shootings in America. And just to recap what happened, it was October 1st, 2017. The alleged shooter was 64-year-old Stephen Paddock. He was a frequent visitor of Las Vegas and the casinos, and seemed to have a rapport with casino workers and dealers. And we're still unsure what the motive is and what happened, but allegedly he started shooting from a room at the Mandalay Bay in, I think, the 32nd floor suite. And he fired more than 1,000 rounds, killing 60 people, wounding at least 413 others. This caused so much panic that even more people were injured from the rushing and from the stampede and from the trying to get out of there, because he was at a position of 32 stories shooting down on 22,000 people who were at this festival. When they got into his hotel room, they found him dead, and allegedly his hard drive was missing from his laptop. So there were a lot of questions as to why, how did this happen? It looked like he was shooting from two different windows. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, I posted a picture. I was in one of those suites a year or two ago for my birthday. And it's a long room, and you have a window, and then it kind of curves around. And so to run from one window to another is difficult, but it is possible in the same suite. So when they said there was shooting from two different windows, they originally thought it was two different rooms. Those suites span a long, a very long real estate with windows, part of that wall. And so unfortunately, we do believe it was him firing from two separate windows. But this is the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in American history. And it was just something that really shocked us. And people going to a festival and enjoying themselves. Why would a 64-year-old man who likes to gamble, guess he was a former auditor and real estate businessman, had been living, I think, in Mesquite, Nevada. Why would he do that? Why would he come in and do? So we don't know. But what we do know is the way the community responded, the way everybody got together. It was amazing. There's only one person I could think of that prior to this was pretty kind of anti, blood donation and not very supportive of what we do for Blood Donation Week, the first week of September. But blood banks told me, thank God, because I didn't care what this person said. And, we still, went on with our campaign a few weeks prior. And we heard from blood banks that not only was the response of people wanting to donate blood after the shooting, but thank God there was such a response prior, because they had blood on the shelves that they could use, that were ready to go. And the hospitals were just just surgical precision in terms of in terms of them being able to take this on and be ready with their crew and their nursing staff and their doctors and ERs. And they were able to save as many lives as possible, but it was absolute chaos. But seeing the community come together, in the moments after we started to recover from this, you saw the hashtag Vegas Strong. And I know a lot of people didn't understand what that meant, but, we who live here in Vegas are very, very protective of our tourists. I know a lot of people think that locals do not like tourists. We are very grateful for our tourists, and we want to ensure that they have a safe place to party, to listen to music, to concert at, to, elope, to gamble, to go to shows, to enjoy fine dining at the club. And not to mention our beautiful nature and to hike and all the other things that you could do, ski nearby. And so when something like this happened, not only, did it take the heart out of a lot of tourists, but it really took the heart out of our city and community and state because, safety and our enthusiasm and encouragement of people coming to Vegas, which is, to me, the entertainment capital of the world and the city of lights and every other name that you hear being used in other cities. And it's a phenomenal city. And when this happened, it just leveled us, and we're still in mourning. So we're remembering the victims, and you're going to be hearing stories on multiple media outlets of people who were there and what they saw and, how people stopped to help others and in the midst of all the chaos and, people running to the area to help the victims. But, our law enforcement, our security teams have done an amazing job to thwart this from ever happening again. I wish we knew what the motive was. I wish we understood why somebody would decide to go after a festival, just like with the Hamas massacre. Why would they go after a peace concert? And what's their beef with individuals who are enjoying music and who, I'm not going to go into all the rumors of, but of what they thought Stephen Paddock's motive was, but we still need some clarity on why it happened. But what we don't need clarity on is how strong Vegas has become and how much we've supported each other during this. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I can't stand politicians. Problem with politicians is their job is to stay in politics. You would think their job is to represent their constituents, but that's not their number one focus. Their number one focus is to get reelected or to help the party that they're with. And so I think we knew that there was going to be some shenanigans as it pertained to the funding and the continuing resolution to fund the government. It's just, I think the Democrats are so frustrated with having lost the election and by not having a lot of popular platforms to run on, that they're going to try to use this situation to their advantage. Now, not all Democrats feel this way. I think you have John Fetterman and other senators that want, the government to continue running. And from what I understand, it's a 24-page bill. Nothing, not a lot of fancy type stuff. It's not like one of these big 2,000, page Affordable Care Act bills. This was we're going to continue to fund the government. I mean, I'm sure it's not identical to Biden's, but from what I understand, it's pretty close to the current Biden budget. So if the Democrats voted for the Biden budget, why aren't they voting for this? Is it because they want the drama? Is it because they want to get on TV? I mean, Chuck Schumer gets to now be in the media again. Although what the Republicans are doing is they're calling it the Schumer Shutdown. So I don't know how this is going to help him. Now, both sides are blaming each other. But as of midnight last night, the government is shut down, meaning only essential workers work, but non-essential government employees are furloughed. And this is a concern because this does give Doge and Trump the opportunity to clean some more of the fat. And I'm mixed on how that was done originally. I love the idea of offering, whoever wants to voluntarily resign, here's a package. You will be required to come to work. If you don't resign, this isn't a, work from home type of job anymore. But then after that, they decide to let go a lot of positions, and they might be considering letting go more positions. It's just, how do we know the positions are wasteful or not? And I understand there's a lot of pressure from these agencies, but I'm looking at ICE. I'm looking at the Department of Defense. I'm looking at CDC. I want to make sure that we have enough people to do the job that needs to be done. What RFK Jr. needs to do, and wants to do in terms of making America healthy again, as well as looking at pediatric vaccines, looking at side effects of medications, looking at food additives. I mean, to me, it's all hands on deck. So I don't want there to be any excuse that some of the important things on Trump's agenda, not get done because of the excuse of, we didn't have enough staff. Well, Vice President J.D. Vance has blamed Chuck Schumer. From what I understand, if the bill was almost identical to the last one, this shouldn't have been much of a debate. But Democrats, according to Fox News, insisted that any agreement to prevent a government shutdown must extend tax credits for the Affordable Care Act. These credits, they say millions of Americans rely on to reduce the cost of healthcare plans under the ACA. Now, many Republicans oppose the extensions of these credits because they say what the Democrats want is going to lead to a huge increase in taxpayer-funded health care for immigrants who entered the country illegally. So some of the sticking points have to do with the illegal immigrants. And this is something that can be hashed out later. Unfortunately, the Democrats want to use this opportunity, which is a rare opportunity for them to have some sort of hand in this administration to negotiate things now. And I got to tell you, The subsidies that we're paying for, Obamacare is a cluster and a seventh. And the subsidies we're paying for skyrocketing premiums that keep going up because we keep paying insurance companies, we don't have extra money to pay for people who are here illegally. We don't even have enough money for Americans to get these subsidies. And I ask, I talk to people, these patients, they say, well, I don't have insurance. I go, but what about Obamacare? What about, the website? They go, oh, no, I don't qualify. I don't qualify. Well, why don't you qualify? Are you making six figures? No, I'm not. But we just don't qualify. Or what we are offered is still too expensive. So the Affordable Care Act needs to be reformed. It needs to be reformed now, but not a part of this continuing resolution bill to fund the government. J.D. Vance says, I think it's important for the American people to realize that the far left faction of Senate Democrats shut down the government because we want to give them hundreds of billions of dollars for health care benefits for illegal aliens. So a new poll indicated that nearly 2/3 of American voters said the Democrats in Congress shouldn't force a federal government shutdown if their demands are not met. But a New York Times Siena poll indicated that voters are going to blame Republicans as well as Democrats for a government shutdown. Now, look, I really can't stand politics. That's why I am not going into politics. I've been asked to. Trump was able to try to be the non-politician candidate, but he has money. I wouldn't be able to. I looked into it where, in fact, I was going to do a reality TV show where I didn't ask anybody for money for my campaign. And I raised it by lemonade stands. I raised it by, doing small jobs and getting the money that way. And unfortunately, you're already then disqualified because you need a certain number of donors. You need a certain number. You just can't. And the reason why they do that is they don't want somebody who's wealthy to just buy themselves into the election. They want to know that this is a people's choice. So I get that. But I didn't want to ask people for money. And I was thinking about running. This was during the recession, the Great Recession, and wanting to show that you could actually run for office without. And the funny thing is Trump later did that, where he's like, don't donate. Save your money. I got this. And then he had to change his mind because, he is business savvy. And, if you're able to raise money and not have to go into your own coffers because people want you in office, why spend your own money? Because these campaigns are pretty darn expensive. But he originally, if you remember, said, you don't have to give me money. I got this. And the non-politician behavior, was attractive. And that's why Trump went as far as he did. People were shocked. But he's like, I'm not going to sound like a politician. I'm not going to act like a politician. None of these lobbyists. Nobody owns me. This is common sense. This is what needs to be done. Unfortunately, the first term, he was still new. He was a rookie. He had to rely on some of the establishment people already there. And there was some struggles, and he had to let people go. This time around, he can handpick who he wants to have there. And you notice there's been very few firings of his because he, where he was able to vet and trust the staff he had. So now we have this shutdown, which who knows how long it could go, because, see, Democrats don't have anything to lose. They're already unpopular. They're already losing elections. But individually, some of these senators, because the House passed it, but some of these senators may have vulnerable races. And if their constituents say, we're going to blame you, get this government reopened, they might be able to get a few people to come back. But I think they need 60 votes of Republicans and Democrats. So they still need a good number of Democrats, and I don't think they have enough. They are going to try another vote today, but I'm not very optimistic about that. Chuck Schumer is not very popular among the Democrats because they want somebody younger, more vibrant. Unfortunately, you also have a huge progressive party like Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders, and they're starting to make some gains, as you see with Zohran Mamdani. So I am hoping they get their act together. I think the shutdown is going to be perilous. This is not the time to be playing games. There are a lot of we really do have to rehash and redo the Affordable Care Act, because that was an absolute mess. And what we're giving insurance companies and the insurance premiums are ridiculous. But there's just, we don't have months to try to hash that out right now. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
We're back on the Dr. Daliah Show. 1-877 Doc Daliah, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I think an issue a lot of us deal with at one point or another, whether it's with our grandparents or parents or even ourselves, is the nursing home. And one report is that Nevada, and I'm from Nevada, has the third worst record in the U.S. for reporting nursing home falls. Now, that doesn't mean we have the most amount of nursing home falls. It means we have the third worst for failure to reporting. But what made that headline concerning to some is, what is the oversight of these nursing homes? What can happen? Do you get forgotten? And there's been a lot of horror stories. Now, I have seen some amazing nursing homes, and then I have seen, within my training, some that made me panic. And in fact, one of my colleagues complained, and I think got the nursing home shut down, one of my older colleagues, because I was a student training there, and they were concerned of neglect and abuse. And so, these nursing homes are, overseen. And the Department of Health and Human Services and as well as many state agencies oversee how these are run. There's medical directors, but nursing homes or assisted living facilities, and there's varying different degrees, can be phenomenal, can be life-saving, can actually be enjoyable. But unfortunately, many people are concerned about the horror story. So where the advantages are is we used to have a society where we didn't travel very far from our nuclear family. And so your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your kids, you all lived relatively close. And it's interesting because some of my friends, their family members are all relatively in nearby zip codes. But then many of my other friends, their families are just completely diasporaed, across the U.S. or globe. And so you start to age and you don't have that team of nieces and nephews and sons and daughters and grandkids. And you start to be alone. Plus, we have fewer kids. Now, my mom had 4 children. I only had 2. And so, when you only have 2 kids, now you have the chances of somebody being there to take care of you. And I wanted to have more. It's just I barely got through both pregnancies with these 2. And then with the practice and all that, we just thought it was safest, to not go through another pregnancy because we didn't know. We almost lost both kids. Thank God they're okay, but I didn't want to risk it. And so with people having fewer kids, and now the younger generation's not even wanting to have kids, we are going to have a much more robust assisted living or nursing home infrastructure if you don't have family members who will take care of you. Now, when I grew up, the family members would live with us. Whoever didn't die right away of cancer or heart disease, would end up moving in with us. And it was stressful. But as a granddaughter, I was like, okay, well, this is what we have to do. And this is, well, we're supportive. But, I'm sure, my dad, who was the son-in-law, wasn't too happy. And you saw the fights. And you also saw the relationship deteriorate between my mom and grandma. Now, maybe it's just because those 2 women had very, very strong personalities. My relationship with my mom is not strong at all. But there's children and extended family are not necessarily nurses or medical providers or physical therapists. And trying to save money by having them live at home, they're not getting the care they need. And oftentimes, many seniors get left in their room. They get a room, they get a TV, they get their meals, and they're isolated. And it's a strain on everybody. Yet what you have with some of these assisted livings, okay, they know what the risks are in terms of falls, in terms of infection, in terms of loneliness and depression, suicidality. And so they guard against that. They have frequent activities. They make sure mealtime is not isolated in your room. If you want to be with others, you get to be with others. And you get to talk and you get to communicate and you get to make jokes and you get to interact with staff. And there's music and there's arts and crafts and there's visiting time. And so it makes it a much more enjoyable time. But, many people look at it as, well, yeah, but you're not going to get out of there. That's where you're going to die. Well, not necessarily. I worry about what's going to happen to me when I'm older. The men in my family die young, but the women, we age and we later get Alzheimer's or cancer, or we just and we don't age well. Okay? And we annoy the other family members, annoy them miserably. And so I fear that I don't want to alienate. Well, another thing, too, is I'm really, really nice to my kids. But if you, God forbid, have cancer or you start getting dementia, you can sometimes become aggressive. You could sometimes become insulting. And I remember my husband was really sad one day because his grandmother said something to him that was really mean. And he's like, I can't believe she would say that to me. And I go, it wasn't her. He's like, what are you talking about? I go, well, you said she's aging. If she's starting to change and have dementia, don't remember what she said. That's not, if she never talked to you like that before, and all of a sudden she, blurted and was really cross with you about something that doesn't make sense, that's not her. Her brain is changing. Oh, I didn't know that. And so a lot of a lot of times your behavior changes. And I took care of a woman who had breast cancer, and we didn't know she had breast cancer. She came in because she was having an altered mental state, and she was fighting with everybody and yelling and screaming and just angry. Well, it's because she had a tumor in the brain. And when we explained that to the family, they were like, oh, we were really hating her because she was so mean. Now, in my family, I have family members who we've always kind of hated. I mean, they've just always been mean. So I can't blame dementia or cognitive changes on that. They're just people who are just mean. But when you do have a family member that starts to not be pleasant to be around, you don't want to be around them. And that's a lot of pressure on you, and these people get isolated. So I do like the fact that we have assisted livings and nursing homes and community centers and places where they could go. But, a concern that many people have is, am I getting abused? Am I getting neglected? Are they ignoring me? So if you do have a family member there, you need to make sure they know you're hands-on. You also need to have a code system with your family member so that if they do feel like they're getting abused or assaulted or something's going on, they can tell you without feeling that other people will know. Now, it's important for you to set this up because if a family member is kind of going in and out of dementia or going in and out of delirium and starting to develop dementia, do I believe them? Do I not? They were assaulted in the past. Are they now, mistransplanting a memory, but if you do establish some ground rules on what the code word is and, what needs to be said, you could then kind of filter out if there's something current being done versus something in the past. And when in doubt, move them. It's a shame. It shouldn't happen. And most facilities are amazing. But there are stories, and this is what scares family members. And also you have some, remember I told you I had a patient who pretended to be semi-comatose, and I would lean over to examine him, and it'd grab my ass. And then I'd look over, and then it'd quickly look like, again, he was in a coma. And I'm like, really? Come on, man. So sometimes some people fake it. The 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I really liked yesterday's press conference that President Trump had with all those little kids who were cancer survivors. It almost made me cry. These kids were so adorable. Well, Donald Trump signed an executive order yesterday aimed at improving ways to identify and treat pediatric cancers using artificial intelligence. It instructs the MAHA, or the Make America Healthy Again Commission, to work with the White House's Office of Science and Technology Policy to employ AI on how to use it to diagnose and treat childhood cancers and identify new cures. The president was joined by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Dr. Mohammed Oz, Director of National Institutes of Health Jay Bhattacharya, as well as others. And he signed this order surrounded by kids, many of whom had survived cancer themselves. And then he said, I got presents for all of you, and they were all excited. And then, it's funny, his granddad side of things, we get to see a lot of his granddad side of things when he's around these kids, and he probably likes to tell stories, and he probably likes to give gifts, and then he probably, says, okay, now I got to go back to work. But he does really well when he's surrounded by kids. And he looks like he has some patience. I mean, he even had patience with Elon Musk's kid, and I was kind of surprised because you could already tell he was not getting along with Elon Musk, but at the time. But I just want us to be able to do anything we can for these little kids. And so what this order does is it adds another $50 million to the Childhood Cancer Data Initiative. He says, I'm also directing the federal government to fully utilize artificial intelligence to supercharge pediatric cancer research. He says it's pretty amazing what's happening. He says, I want to just say that we're going to defeat childhood cancer once and for all. Now, in his first term, he established a Childhood Cancer Data Initiative where you can utilize AI to administer clinical research and patient care to address pediatric cancers. But I think now this will also track molecular characteristics, genetic information of childhood cancers. Though that's already in the database. But they're going to deploy artificial intelligence to improve clinical trials, sharpen diagnoses, fine-tune treatments, unlock cures, and strengthen prevention strategies using AI. Researchers will be able to, for example, build scalable models to predict how a child's body responds to therapies, letting doctors forecast cancer progression and minimize treatment side effects, delivering better treatments to save more lives. This is according to Michael Castillo, Director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. So it's going to bolster funding for the Childhood Cancer Initiative, which is within the National Institutes of Health. And they said there's going to be more investments to come. So the executive order is going to be they say also will be a funding call for research proposals related to the application of AI in childhood cancers. They say it's a tremendous kind of application area where we have existing data sets, a lot of existing work that has been done over the past 6 years in this area, and it's something that's ripe for both scientific exploration and direct impact to the lives of these children. So, when it comes to childhood cancer, this is something we have been very lacking in. It's difficult. One is because your pediatric patient might not necessarily be able to vocalize their changes in symptoms like an adult can. They also oftentimes, get misdiagnosed. Well, they have a cold or they have a virus. Well, we're not going to overdo things. We're not going to overtest kids. And, when you diagnose cancer in a child, you really, you lose your breath. And you know it's going to be a long fight. My uncle died of leukemia when he was 13 years old, and it was my mom's only sibling, and he was gone within 2 weeks. And what we are able to do now in terms of diagnosing it, in terms of treating it, in terms of helping many of these kids go into remission, it's amazing. We have some friends who have a daughter with a brain tumor. And with the type of brain tumor she has, many individuals would only live a year. Well, she was able to do well for 5. She's struggling now, and we're praying and praying and praying that she could get through this. But, if we could, allow them to still live more of their life pain-free and function and give them, opportunities to, do things they want to do, and to be able to live long enough where we might actually have a cure. I think all hands on deck. And AI, I think we use the term too generally. Artificial intelligence, we think of it as a computer that's just going to all of a sudden become smart and then turn on us, which, I think we're still a little bit a ways from that, but I think many humans what's going to happen is these humans are going to be putting too much, shall we say, stock into what an AI machine says. And then if AI says, look, we're having a climate change issue, and if you want to cure climate change, we need to reduce the population. I really believe there are some idiots out there, because you already see this sort of extinctionism attitude, like you saw that in the Las Vegas Sphere, that movie they show postcards from, gosh, I forget what that movie's called, Postcards from Another Planet or whatever. They talk about how our population, our vast population, is ruining the earth, and we might just need to let us blow each other up and start over on a new planet. That's kind of an attitude I don't want, which I do think AI is going to embrace, because they're going to say, well, okay, well, you're giving me a task here. You want us to be able to feed the earth. You want us to save the planet, and climate change is very important to the people putting in all my algorithms. And so, you want to fix the earth, have fewer people. And that could be very, very scary. Oh, how do we have fewer people? Well, don't intervene. Once they reach a certain age, don't treat them. If somebody is sick and may only have a lifespan of a few years, save the money. And so we don't know what because right now humans are acting on emotion. Humans are acting on ethics. Humans are not using necessarily the same algorithm a computer would. And we start to let these computers, get more prominent and inject into our decision making. We could see some pretty bad decisions being made. Eugenics, for example. I could totally see a computer, an AI, come up with eugenics. Well, if you have a population that is making individuals that have genes that could hurt them, or breed a population that could hurt other individuals and hurt other people, then you want to encourage breeding of the genes that don't do that. Well, there you go, and then you have the start of the Aryan nation and Nazism. So we have to be really, really careful. On the other end, when we do have data sets and we have troves of it that humans are trying to sift through and computers are filtering through, AI is really, really good at that. And if they could say, look, I am picking up on, I've looked at, 1 million mammograms, half of whom were abnormal. These are the trends we're seeing. And if they're picking them up that the naked eye can't, that's going to be huge. And I think we will be able to pick up early breast cancer. We're going to be able to pick up on early pathological changes, on pathology specimens. We're going to be able to pick up on depression. We're going to be able to pick up on Alzheimer's and dementia. So I am definitely for AI being involved and integrated and a tool. I just don't want us to surrender to it. 1-877-Doc-Daliah, don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.